Welcome to the KADA Anti-Doping Seminar 2020 for Asia and Oceania. I am Haesung-ji. I am your host for today's event for the next 120 minutes. The KADA Anti-Doping Seminar is an annual event hosted by the Korea Anti-Doping Agency. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the seminar had to adopt the new format of webinar. Even though KADA is not meeting you in person, KADA would like to share the interesting projects and activities it has been pursuing in the year of 2020, even in the face of the pandemic. And today's program will also present knowledge and examples that highlight the importance of intelligence and investigation in the field of anti-doping. Much efforts and care have been put together to ensure that today's program is informative, but also fascinating. For active two-way communication, we will leave our chat window open. So if you come up with any questions throughout the program, please bring them in the chat window. And with this active communication, we are going to make sure that today's seminar is successful. And your question will be addressed at the final Q&A session. There also will be a brief survey at the end of the program. If you complete the survey, you will be automatically entered in the lucky draw. So make sure that you are stay tuned until the very end. Now, without further ado, let me now announce the KADA Anti-Doping Seminar 2020 Open. Many friends and colleagues of KADA have sent us congratulatory messages, video messages. So, shall we take a look at these video messages together?
체육관광부 2차관 최윤입니다. 한국 정부를 대표하여 2020년 아시아 오세아니아 지역 도핑 방지 웨비나에 참여해 주신 여러분들을 진심으로 환영합니다. 코로나19의 세계적 대유행으로 인해 여러분들을 직접 현장에서 만나지 못해 너무나 아쉬운 마음이지만 비록 우리가 멀리 떨어져 있더라도 도핑 없는 스포츠 환경 조성이라는 공동의 목표를 향한 마음만큼은 가까이에 있다고 생각합니다. 오늘 웨비나가 아시아 오세아니아 지역 국가도핑 방지기구 간 협력을 강화하고 유익한 정보를 교류하는 뜻깊은 시간이 되시길 바랍니다. 깨끗한 스포츠, 공정한 경제, Play True.
Dear colleagues and partners in clean sport, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the Korea Anti-Doping Agency's 2020 seminar, moving forward together towards intelligence-led anti-doping control. 2020 has been a year like no other. The COVID-19 pandemic has presented significant challenges to our everyday lives, including in anti-doping, where public health remains our number one priority. One positive aspect is that it has led us to develop new and innovative ways to ensure that the global anti-doping program is able to carry on despite this unprecedented global health crisis in a way that is safe for all those involved, especially the doping control officers and our main stakeholders, the athletes. Now, more than ever before, investigations are proving to be a key tool in preserving the integrity of the system, especially during the pandemic. Intelligence received through WADA's whistleblower program Speak Up is leading to target testing of athletes, the launching of investigations, and the discovery of other non-analytical anti-doping rule violations. It is therefore key that we build intelligence and investigations capacity for as many anti-doping organizations as possible across the globe. I would like to congratulate and thank our partners at KADA for this seminar and wish you all fruitful and informative sessions. Good luck, and I look forward to the day when we can meet together in person once again.
Hello, dear colleagues. On behalf of the Institute of National Anti-Doping Organizations, the largest international community of anti-doping experts, I would like to welcome all of you to this annual seminar organized by the Korean Anti-Doping Agency. My name is Jorge Leiva, and I am the CEO of WADA. The World Anti-Doping Code distinguishes between 11 different anti-doping rule violations, but only one of them relates to the presence of a prohibited substance in an athlete sample. This means that for many of the other 10 anti-doping rule violations, anti-doping organizations can and should exploit the information that comes from intelligence and investigation. In many of the large anti-doping scandals, many of the large anti-doping cases in the last year confirmed the effectiveness of INI. Hence the importance for national anti-doping organizations to fully understand the potential of intelligence and investigation methods. And I've heard that in this seminar, you will learn from real experts of this field. I congratulate my friends at the Korean Anti-Doping Agency for continuing with the tradition of hosting this annual seminar, this year virtually. Now, I would also like to thank KADA for assuming a leadership role in the region and supporting fellow anti-doping organizations with opportunities like this, with seminars like this. We are a more supportive and stronger international community with NADOs like KADA. So, in Korean, 감사합니다. Enjoy it, stay safe. I hope to see you all soon. Thank you. Bye.
Hello everyone. On behalf of the International Testing Agency, I would like to wish a warm welcome to all the participants to the Korean Anti-Doping Agency Anti-Doping Seminar. We are all very sorry not to be together in Seoul to discuss and exchange together, but I wish all the participants fruitful exchanges by webinar and hoping that we can all be together very soon. Let me also congratulate the Korean Anti-Doping Agency and all the Korean authorities for putting this seminar together. I know how complicated it is to shift from in-person to webinar, and so I would like to congratulate you and wish you all on behalf of ITA, all our congratulations and many success for this seminar.
네, 안녕하세요. 저는 IOC위원이자 와다에서 선수위원과 이사로 활동하고 있는 이승민이라고 합니다. 우선 한국도핑방지위원회가 이번에 개최하는 2020 카다 세미나에 참석해주신 모든 참석자 여러분들께 진심으로 환영의 말씀 드립니다. 특히 코로나 사태가 장기화되면서 정말 많은 환경적인 변화가 있었는데요. 이번 의미 있는 웨비나를 기획해주신 카다 임직원 여러분께 다시 한번 축하와 감사의 말씀 드립니다. 이번 세미나에서 아시아, 오세아니아를 뛰어넘어서 많은 국가들이 정말 클린 스포츠의 중요성을 인식하고 다양한 의견 공유가 있는 그런 멋진 세미나가 되기를 응원드리겠습니다. 다시 한번 이번 카다 세미나 개최를 진심으로 축하드리고요. 내년에는 한국에서 여러분을 꼭 다시 뵐 수 있기를 희망합니다. 감사합니다.
It is truly encouraging to see support from so many people from diverse organizations. And indeed, we hope to see them all here in Seoul next year for the KADA Anti-Doping Seminar 2021. So moving on, let me now invite Mr. Lee Young-hee, President of the Korea Anti-Doping Agency, to the podium for his opening remarks. I'm sure that as a president of the organizer, he has a lot to say. So, Mr. Lee Young-hee, the floor is yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. It is my great pleasure for me to welcome all of you for 2020 KADA Anti-Doping webinar today. It's a beautiful sunny afternoon in the middle of the autumn here in Korea. I'm really sorry for not being with you in this beautiful season in Korea. But it could be another fun to be with you in different season and a different time zone. I greatly appreciate with all the outstanding speakers, Mr. Gunter from WADA, Mr. Mario Theophanous from UK Anti-Doping, Catherine Jones and Mr. Gray van der Woert from Sports Integrity Australia, and Mr. Kazuhiro Hayashi, the Director of Asia Oceania Office of WADA, and all the ORADO representatives took time from your busy schedule and inconvenient situations. Although we cannot meet you in person due to COVID-19 pandemic, our passion for anti-doping should remain unchanged and knowledge sharing should continue like this. Recently, the role of intelligence and investigation within and across the country for anti-doping has become increasingly important around the world. However, Asia is relatively weak in this area compared to Europe and North America. Particularly, cooperation among countries is much more difficult due to difference in language, culture, and systems. Therefore, the topic of today, moving forward together for intelligence-led doping control, is an excellent choice of this day in this region. I hope we share our knowledge and vast experience together during this webinar, and we will take a step forward in INI activities. Lastly, I would like to thank the Minister of Culture, Sports, Tourism Korea, WADA, the Regional Anti-Doping Organization, Integrity Sports Australia, UK Anti-Doping for your active support of our webinar today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, for your encouraging remarks, and thank you so much for highlighting today's topic. The year 2020 could have been a very quiet year for us all, but KADA has taken up the challenge to bring the seminar in online format. This shows the enthusiasm and determination of KADA to make things work in the field of anti-doping, even in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, before moving on to the group presentation and discussion, we may have a time to meet our participants. The seminar today is being live streamed to many people across many countries. So we may have the group photo together. So shall we check out who our participants are? Hello, everyone. So ladies and gentlemen, you are now on air. And to commemorate this special occasion, we are going to have your group photo taken together. So I'm going to count 3, like 1, 2, 3, and you are going to throw me the most charming smile of yours. So can you do that? Are you ready to give me a smile? Great. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, smile. Yeah, I am sure that our photographer captured the best shot. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you. So I think that went very well. So now, let us move on to the group presentation and discussion. Our presentation and discussion will be led by 7 great panelists. They are Mr. Jaisoo of KADA, Mr. Kazuhiro Hayashi, Director of WADA's Asia Office, Mr. Gopinathan Nair, Director General of Southeast Asia Regional Anti-Doping Organization, or WARADO, and Mr. Mohamed Mahid Shareef, Director General of South Asian WARADO. And we also have Executive Officer of Oceania WARADO, Ms. Natanya Potoi, Secretary General of West Asia WARADO, Ms. Seena Omar, and last but not least, Ms. Venera Abdulla, Senior Manager of Central Asia WARADO. Before we engage in this comprehensive discussion, let me ask one of our panelists to share a few words of greetings. Since we have Secretary General of KADA right here in the studio, I'm going to ask him to deliver the message of greeting for our participants and for our panelists. So Mr. Jin, could you please share the message of greetings for the participants?
안녕하십니까. 카다 사무총장 진재수입니다. 서울에서 인사드립니다. 한국에 직접 여러분을 모시고 이 무대에서 토론을 같이 했으면 더욱 좋았을 텐데 온라인으로라도 우리가 아시아 오세아니아뿐만 아니라 지구촌 도핑 방지 가족 여러분들과 만나게 돼서 매우 반갑습니다. 카다 도핑 방지 세미나에 여러 가지 바쁜 와중에서도 온라인으로 참석해 주신 여러분 모두를 환영합니다.
Mr. Jin, thank you so much for your warm welcome. And let us now begin our group discussion. Today's group discussion will share the regional issues related to anti-doping and the changes or transformation that COVID-19 has entailed. And we are going to also talk about what kind of changes COVID-19 brought to the field of sports and anti-doping. And we are going to focus on the region of Asia and Oceania in particular. So our first presenter is Mr. Hayashi, Director of WADA's Asia office. He will brief us on how the outbreak of the COVID-19 has changed the general anti-doping situation in the Asian and the Oceanian region. So let's see whether Mr. Hayashi, our first presenter, is ready. Mr. Hayashi, so please share a few words of greetings and then proceed with your presentation. If you begin your presentation, the screen will convert to your PPT material. So over to you, Mr. Hayashi. I guess, Mr. Hayashi, you need to actually turn on your microphone. You are on mute at the moment. So online training or online conference on online types of webinar, these kind of things can be a challenge, but also it is a beauty of having the live program. So let us wait a little bit more so that our presenter can be ready to give his enthusiastic presentation. I was told that you can expect a lot from his presentation because he's going to talk about the general situation related to the anti-doping in Asia and Oceania in general. So I'm sure that we have a lot to learn from his presentation. So Mr. Hayashi, can you hear me? All right, so I think your microphone is now on. So could you share your words of greetings and then give your presentation? So over to you.
Yes, I have already started. You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
So you can see my PowerPoint?
So we are going to show the PowerPoint right now as soon as we are ready. So I guess Mr. Hayashi has prepared a presentation material and he really wants to share it with us. And I guess while we were talking about the beauty of having live program like this and then encountering the scene like this, he was actually proceeding with his presentation. So he needs to actually go back to the first slide and then start everything over. So Mr. Hayashi?
Yes.
So, shall we try just...
I think you have not yet get the PowerPoint.
So we are going to check.
Okay. Let's
great.
start. Thank
so
you
we
very
finally
much.
have the presentation. So over to you, Mr. Hayashi.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry to take time so long. During the COVID situation, on this occasion, I would like to express my sincere appreciation for your devotion for continuous anti-doping activities in every region, in every country. And as you know, there are 6 RADOs in Asia, Oceania, covering 61 developing countries. On the slide, I put 20 countries, including Australia, New Zealand, Oceania, rather. I'm sorry, Natanya. So let me correct 16 countries, excluding Australia, New Zealand. In this big area, through RADOs, our regional office assisting NADOs in practical implementation of the code and the international standards, especially focusing on the implementation of the code, such as encouraging corrective actions and capacity building through various lot of webinars and meetings, virtual meetings on new RADO strategy or discussion on 21 priorities of each RADOs for the implementation of the new code. Especially, now you are encouraged to complete corrective actions for their compliance, of course, and strongly is facilitated to submit your new anti-doping rules to be in line with the code. Also, in parallel, our president took an initiative, as he mentioned in the video message, to promote the direct communication of sports ministers and top of the sports administration of public authorities and athlete representatives, such as athlete committee members of ANAC and the Olympic Council of Asia. Some of you have already witnessed these meetings that regional office arranged, and still these meetings going on. On the UNESCO Convention, unfortunately, still 3 remaining countries, but almost countries have already started implementation of the UNESCO Convention. Our regional office is ready to coordinate with the activities to be in line with the UNESCO Convention also. Unfortunately, like KADA, Korean Anti-Doping Agency, other major NADOs, Australian NADO or CHINADA, JADA, very actively support our colleagues. Also, currently, WADA developing the cooperation with ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, a very big regional organization in this field. So our regional office is still continuing to support your activities in various areas. We would like to do our best to support you. To capture your activities during the COVID, next slide, please. Can you see the table? Okay, thank you. This is the your activities. Even under the very critical situation impacted by the COVID, Asian region, concerning the number of sample collection, you surplus half of the achievement of last year. Not only Asia, but also Oceania. your activities relatively recovered, still going on. Next figures, please. Next table, please. Excuse me. This is the number of NADOs who collected the samples until September. So in September, already in Asia, 60% of NADOs, comparing with last year, and testing number over 60%, and the NADO number 76%. In Oceania, testing number over 50%, and almost NADOs are yet implemented, but I think considering these figures, now we are going to the right direction under the COVID situation. So we hope your devotion for the anti-doping activities will be encouraged more under the current situation to fight against doping. And finally, this, as I mentioned before, to be in line with the code, all NADO signatories in our region are strongly requested to submit new anti-doping rules of your NADOs, or NOC acting as NADOs. So fortunately, very small numbers are still remaining, but almost NADOs have already submitted. Please remind, not forget to make an official adoption of these rules by your NADO boards or necessary internal procedure to formalize your anti-doping rules to be in line with the code officially. So thank you very much. I appreciate again for your activities. So we sincerely hope next year you are willing to come to Tokyo for 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games to be doping free for these games. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your updates, Mr. Hayashi. Thank you very much. I see that it is truly inevitable to reduce the number of testings as we saw in the presentation. It is because keeping our athletes and doping control officers safe is one of the biggest interests of us all. So with that in mind, let us watch a very special video clip from KADA. The video captured how KADA, the organizer of today's event, are responding to the COVID-19. So shall we watch this video together? So the video shows how hard KADA is trying to make things work even in the face of the challenges the pandemic has brought. So Mr. Jin, so related to this video, could you elaborate further on what kind of changes there are due to the COVID-19 in KADA, and what kind of responsive measures do you think are effective?
네, 지금도 코로나 바이러스와 싸우고 있는 세계 모든 분들에게 응원의 메시지를 보냅니다. 비록 힘든 시기이지만 우리가 지혜롭게 잘 헤쳐나가리라고 굳게 믿습니다. 우리 한국은 제일 큰 대회가 전국 체육대회가 있습니다만은 그게 우선 중지가 되었습니다. 그리고 전국 규모의 그 대회가 한 56%가 중지가 되었고요. 또 코로나 방역 1단계로 프로 스포츠 대회는 경기장 그 수용 가능 인원의 30%까지 관중 입장이 허용되었습니다. 카다의 검사 프로그램은 와다의 코로나 바이러스 지침에 따라서 그 도핑 방지 기구 지침을 저희 운영 지침을 만들어서 시행을 하고 있습니다. 카다 도핑 검사는 조사 우리 결과관리부와 같이 협력을 하여서 선수의 종목별 도핑 위험도나 생체 수첩 등을 고려해서 선수별 위험도 평가를 실시하여서 검사의 최우선 순서인 RTP 경기장 외 검사를 시작으로 해서 검사 프로그램을 단계적으로 재개하였습니다. 카다는 와다의 지침을 준수해서 선수나 검사의 건강을 최우선으로 하여서 검사를 실시하고 있습니다.
That's very good to hear. Thank you for giving us honest and informative answers. I thought no sports meant no anti-doping activities, but KADA is definitely working hard, like any other time, to bring about the world free from doping. And I believe other regions can also relate it to such determination, as well as the challenges that KADA is going through. So, it is time to hear how different regions are addressing the challenges the pandemic has entailed. So our second presenter is Mr. Gobinathan Nair. So let me check whether our second presenter is ready.
Yeah, I'm ready
Mr.
to go.
Nair?
Can you hear me? Yes, I'm
So-
ready to go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very well. So
Sure,
could you
okay.
briefly explain the COVID-19 situation in your region? And also, I was told that you have some recommendations or proposals that you want to bring for other regional anti-doping organizations in your presentation. So please share your words of greetings and proceed with presentation, please.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to thank KADA and the organizers for inviting all the regional anti-doping staff to give our views. Before I continue, mine will be a verbal inputs, and there will not be any slides. Each of us is given about few minutes to speak. So when this COVID first took place, there was a great emphasis on what should we tell our countries, what should they do. Pretty much everyone was at a loss. So the key first thing which we had was to communicate, all right? And that one, we had the idea from a fellow RADO from the Caribbean, where she put up a set of slides to disseminate the information at that moment. So what we did was we communicated with them and we modified and adapted to suit our needs to the region. So the first one is communication with your stakeholders, with your friends in the anti-doping world. Second one, whatever they do have, learn to share and learn to adapt. Because what is good for one region may not be applicable to the other region. And apart from communication and adapting, the third thing which we felt was the emphasis to the NADOs to abide by the local laws, all right? They should not go strong-headed and say, no, we need to do testing, but what the local laws are and what your anti-doping recommendations are, and come to a common ground as to when is the best time to do the testing. The fourth thing we looked at is actually with regards to safety. When I say safety, we felt that the NADOs need to look into the DCO's protection beyond the personal protection equipment. Example, what happens if a NADO, someone, a DCO, in the process of testing get COVID? Is he or she insured? To what extent is he covered medically? And I think that is something which we really need to look after the DCOs, because they are the people on the ground doing all this work. Number 5, with regards, apart from safety, is there were many media going after NADOs in the region. Are you still testing? Is the testing reduced? So one of the answers which we suggested to them is we are also looking at intelligence. So this was a time whereby NADOs can actually go into Facebook, go to all the resources they have to see what athletes are doing, what kind of information they can, or intelligence they can get in order to enhance their testing program. And finally, we are in the process of helping out one of the countries to do a reaccreditation of their DCOs virtually. So I think that is something which we are in the process of looking into it, because this is going to be the new norm, and I think it should not stop now. And my sharing is that NADOs should really take this as the new norm and see that in moving forward, what should we do further in terms of communication, in terms of adaptation, in terms of the emphasis, in terms of safety, and how we can enhance intelligence and do capacity building virtually. And those are the points which I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your valuable insights. And definitely, I actually agree with the second presenter that we are living in a new norm and we have to tackle this situation. So the COVID-19 has brought a paradigm shift in Korea. We now even have a new term called untact. On meaning less or not, tact meaning contact. So if you put them together, the word untact means no contact or less contact. So we are definitely living in a new norm of this untact life. So I was told that in the East Asian RADO, the DCO's license renewal training was done remotely in an untact manner. So Mr. Jin, so how about Korea? Haven't we also adopted the similar kind of online training? So could you elaborate on that, please, Mr. Jin?
예, 맞습니다. 예, 기존에도 온라인과 오프라인으로 교육을 실시하였습니다. 코로나 19로 인해서 저희가 이제 온라인 교육으로 발빠르게 전환을 하였는데 그동안에 상당 비중은 대면 교육으로 실시하였었습니다만은 그렇게 되었습니다. 비대면 교육 내용은 누구나 이해하기 쉬울 수 있도록 인포그래피를 사용해서 영상을 제작하였습니다. 이러한 영상은 선수뿐만 아니라 학부모, 또 경기 선수 관계자, 의사 등 해서 저희가 한 10여 정을 영상을 만들어서 활용하였습니다.
Thank you so much for your detailed information. And I believe the direction that KADA is taking right now is the right one in the era of the pandemic. With that, let us now hear from West Asia RADO. So shall I check whether our third presenter is on or not? So Ms. Seena Omar, Secretary General of West Asia RADO. Are you ready to give your presentation?
Yes, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Great. Yes, we can hear you very clearly. So over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, again. My name is Seena Omar. I am the Secretary General of the West Asia WADA. I'm honored to be invited to be part of this discussion group in the KADA webinar. Thank you very much. Please let me start by introducing West Asia WADA. Our WADA is composed of 5 member countries, that is Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Palestine, and Syria. The WARADO office is hosted in Jordan by Jordan Anti-Doping Organization since its establishment back in 2007 and receives generous support from the Jordan Olympic Committee. The major challenge faced by our region is political in terms of occupation, civil war, and armed conflicts in different member countries. Financial and transportation restraints, of course, accompany these challenges by default, in addition to compromised sustainability of personnel at important positions for the anti-doping program. On the bright side, all 5 member countries speak the same mother language, which is Arabic, and a lot similar in traditions and manners, making it easier to communicate and build strong relationships with the member country representative and other stakeholders. We are lucky at West Asia WADA to have dedicated member country representatives and liaisons, which makes our regional organization truly unique. Anti-doping program has been stable during the last 3-4 years. We are using the WADA testing grant to support a large part of the testing program in all member countries, and the Asian Anti-Doping Fund to support the function of the office and to host important capacity building trainings, in addition to the production of useful materials for that. WARADO provides the needed technical and logistical support whenever needed to ensure proper program implementation is in place within the given humble possibilities. COVID-19 pandemic had and continues to severely impact the sport activities in our region, and as a result, the implementation of anti-doping program in our member countries, similar to so many other countries worldwide. Sport activities has been halted until the end of the year in 1 member country, while other countries practiced restrictive precautions and conditions for resuming activities, depending on the pandemic situation, being monitored closely after a complete lockdown in many member countries. To deal with complications of the pandemic, the board members, in close collaboration with WARADO office, we adopted the instructions recommended by the Ministry of Health and Olympic Committee in each member country, in addition to the guidelines developed by WADA for doping control process and protection of personnel, as mandatory to be followed when delivering anti-doping activity to minimize the risk of spreading the disease. The pandemic had a very severe impact on the regional and national programs, having to cut down numbers of testing, educational sessions, in addition to postponing very important meetings and capacity building trainings, unfortunately. Although having experienced all these changes and plans left us with minimum accomplishment in 2020, but it definitely prepared us better for planning ahead for next year. So this year has been very harsh on all humanity, but we pray for God that the coming days will bring health, serenity, and success for all. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much for your enthusiastic presentation. Thank you. So we learned a little bit about what kind of hardship that you are going through and how you are trying to tackle such hardship. Now, next, we are going to hear from our 4th presenter, Mr. Mohamed Shareef. So he is the Secretary General of West Asia WARADO. So shall we check whether our presenter is ready to give a speech? So hello.
Hello.
All right, so over to you. I believe that you are going to share some of the challenges that COVID-19 brought to your region in the field of anti-doping, as well as how you are tackling. So over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for all the participants and all the presenters. Greetings from South Asian Region Anti-Doping Organization and the Maldives sunny side of life. As everybody has mentioned, this pandemic has been quite an issue. Not everybody, exactly no one was ready for it. Nobody still know what is actually happening about it. So it has been a very big challenge, especially in these parts of the world. We contribute basically for one of the most poorest countries in the world, and our WARADO is made up of 5 countries, which is Bangladesh, Bhutan, Maldives, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. With regard to the COVID and the testing, and I have to say all activities has been stopped since March, except for Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka just started a few weeks back, but unfortunately due to the second wave, Sri Lanka has also gone down for a second lockdown, which has limited for all kind of activities. In all other countries, still the lockdown and the movement is not available for sporting activities. So all these activities in terms of sports movement, sports practices, people getting out and doing freely is very restricted and very limited. With all the challenges, there comes new opportunities and new ventures and new what we call about new standards that we have to look forward when challenges come across, and that is the key to humanity. We always find ways to overcome big challenges we have done in the past, so we will do currently as well. One of the things I would like to carry on from what Mr. Gobi and Ms. Seena said is that we need to follow the guidelines and instructions given by the local authorities in terms of the pandemic, which we have been doing with all the member countries. And one of the things that we have found and we have been doing is that communication, as Mr. Gobi has mentioned, it is very important. And in regard to that, what we have done is all member countries, we meet online monthly to discuss our challenges, the way forward, and what are the status. It has given us an opportunity to be even more closely connected than before, I have to say, because in the pre-normal cases, the only times that we meet up is once a year or maybe twice a year, depending on which of the kinds of meetings that we attend to. But now we have a platform, created a platform that we meet monthly online, and then we discuss and we give feedbacks to each and everyone how their countries are doing, and we be much closely. And we also keep a record of what are the activities and how COVID pandemic is actually affecting each and every country. So the RADO can keep an update and then help, and with respect to other parties, share the knowledge and information and help whenever is needed. With regard to testing, we have not done any testing except for Sri Lanka. As Ms. Seena mentioned, our testing is also undertaken through WADA testing grant, and thank you for that. But like I said, we are looking forward for 2021 to see how the new norm will actually help us to go forward. And I think with this new challenges, we have to look into what you call the blended mode of having all these kinds of seminars, webinars, as well as training, where we meet as well as we do training online, which will actually has opened a lot of opportunities in terms of training. And I see in many academic institutions and places that this has been taken in to close to heart, and then the training methodology has been changed to ensure that everybody is being accessible to the training. So the training can be, the reach out can be much more, and which we are looking at. For this opportunity, let me thank on behalf of RADO, South Asian RADO, as well as our member countries for KADA for organizing this annually. And this year it is, although it is a challenge, I think it is pretty good. And thank you for KADA and KADA, all the staff and members of KADA. And thank you very much for everyone for participating, taking their time with different time zones. And a very good morning. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you. I can't agree more with what he said. I mean, yes, there are lockdowns and less sporting activities, but also we can expect something new from 2021, because we can open a seminar like this in the format of online webinar, and also training can go online too, so as our presenter said. So let us expect a lot for the next year. So now I am going to check our next presenter. I believe the next presenter is Ms. Natanya Potoi from Oceania RADO. She is an executive officer of the Oceanian RADO. Hello?
Hello? Yes, hello?
So are you ready to give the presentation?
Yes,
So-
I am.
But I don't think that the voice and the video sync is right at the moment. So before our next presenter is ready, we are going to just go over what our other presenters shared. Actually, these are the screen for the Central Asia RADO. So I believe that our next presenter must be from Central Asia RADO. So, hello. So let me check whether our next presenter is ready. So can everyone see the screen right here, the presentation that says Central Asia RADO and COVID-19? So whoever is the owner of this slide should give the presentation. And as I mentioned, these things can happen in the new normal because of the challenges that has been imposed by the COVID-19. A lot of training and the conferences are going online. I recently attended online training conferences. It was a conference where people gathered together to talk about the difficulties of online training. So your organizer can prepare like the perfect internet connection, but then when you invite other people from across the globe, their connection and the infrastructure could be different. So this is a new norm that we have to live with. But being patient and being perseverance, this is the key to resolve such issues. So we are going to be patient until our next presenter is ready, and we are going to continue to persevere to hear from our presenter. So I guess we need to go to the other presenter. So I'm going to try Ms. Venera Abdulla. So this time, Ms. Venera Abdulla, so I'd like to ask you to give the presentation if you are ready. She's the manager of the Central Asian RADO. So the presentation was for yours, I think. So sorry about that. So are you ready to give your presentation then?
Yes, sure. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. And first of all, I would like also to thank KADA for organizing such gorgeous and excellent seminar. Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic brought us new challenges, and we are facing these challenges in our everyday life. We have all had to change all our methods of delivering the anti-doping activities, and thankfully we passed the critical stage, but on the positive side we had time to review all and to finalize the paperwork. So we decided to use our time in the most useful and prolific way it is possible. We changed the methods of delivering anti-doping activities, including testing program, education program for athletes, support personnel, as well as doping control personnel. And we organized the first online DCO training for Afghanistan as a member country of our WARADO. At the same time, we continued conducting various education programs in online format. And the good thing is that we did not stop on the because of the lockdown. We changed all our methodology, and our RADO, we can be proud of all. I'm personally, as a director of our RADO, personally very proud of our member countries such as Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia, Pakistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, that they are all successfully completed and signed off their corrective actions in the Code Compliance Center. So, and also a good positive thing that our RADO this year helped to Kyrgyzstan in establishing a new national anti-doping organization. And this is a great success for all our Central Asia region. At the same time, developing their own anti-doping in line with the 2021 World Anti-Doping Code. So all member countries developed and submitted their anti-doping rules to WADA, and as of today, 2 member countries already approved and adopted their anti-doping rules. So this is what, that's all what I wanted to say. And thank you very much again for this great opportunity to share our knowledge, to share our experience. And we just want to say thank you all and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Venera Abdullah. Thank you for being patient, and thank you for delivering that great presentation for us all. So I guess in general, the number of testings are decreasing, and training is being conducted online due to the COVID-19. So if that's the trend, the budget for the project in 2020 might be left over in the year end. So Mr. Jin, what is the approach of KADA? How do you address the issue of leftover budget and the projects that cannot be carried out this year in 2020?
네, 저희도 그 부분을 많이 고민했습니다. 코로나19로 인해서 당초에 계획하였던 그 도핑 검사와 도핑 방지 교육을 목표대로 계획대로 달성을 하지 못하였습니다. 그래서 궁극의 어떤 목적은 선수 보호와 또 도핑 방지 예방을 하는 것이기 때문에 이번에 우리는 대국민 홍보에 좀 집중을 하는 것으로 변경을 하였습니다. 그래서 우리 카다는 설립된 지 이제 최초로 대국민 홍보를 위한 광고를 현재 추진하고 있습니다. 그것은 여러 가지 TV 채널, 케이블 TV, 그리고 유튜브나 인터넷 등을 통해서 다양한 매체를 통해서 저희가 홍보를 하는 것으로 목표를 약간 변경하였습니다. 그래서 이번에 우리 카다는 이번 기회를 통해서 이 도핑 방지에 대한 홍보 대상을 선수와 선수 지원요원뿐만 아니라 일반인까지 확대해서 모든 국민들이 도핑에 대해서 많은 인식을 확산할 수 있도록 그런 기회로 활용을 하기로 하였습니다.
Oh, thank you so much for your honest and detailed answers. And I think that is a clever way to utilize the leftover budget. And I can't wait to see the promotional videos that KADA is preparing. Okay, this time, let us now hear from our last presenter, Ms. Natanya Potoi from Oceanian RADO. She is an executive officer of this Oceanian RADO. Ms. Potoi, are you ready to give your presentation? Yeah, I can hear some sounds.
Yes, can you see my screen?
Oh, yes, you are on and off, I think. But we're going to just try because your voice was pretty clear. So we will persevere to see whether you can deliver the presentation. So, Ms. Potoi, can you hear me okay? Well, as I said in the previous session, in online conference and seminar, this can happen anytime. So organizer has been preparing the perfect internet connection and everything, but always there are some derivatives, and you have to consider the different environment and different situations of other regions. But at least we could see her. All right, now we can actually see her. So Ms. Natanya Potoi, so can you say hello?
Yes,
so, all
thank
right,
you very
good.
much.
So please proceed
Hello,
with
everybody.
the presentation.
Talofa and right. Talofa and Bulavinaka. My name is Natanya. I'm the Executive Officer of the Oceania Regional Anti-Doping Organization. I am so humbled and honored to actually provide you with a presentation on how Oceania is dealing with the COVID-19 or this unprecedented times. I hope you can see my screen, so I'll just go ahead and move on to the next slide. With the COVID, we have had some very positive output from COVID. It has pushed us to actually create and look for a bigger space so that the team or the anti-doping team can operate exclusively from the Oceania National Olympic Committees. With that, we have an increase of staff. With ORADO, we now have a total of 4 full-time staff in our office. And we are quite happy to actually have these 14 of people, that's including myself. So we have our program manager, Fatofe Daunivuka. We have a NADO liaison manager, and we also have an administrative manager who actually looks after with the operations of the office. So right there in your screen, if you can see it, you can see that is our new office space. Some of the updates from what has COVID provided us, as everyone, the previous presenters have mentioned, is that it has increased communication with all our member countries. So just looking at our doping control program, we are now, there's more importance of the well-being and safety of not only our doping control officers, but also with our athletes by providing them with personal protection equipment. We haven't started our testing until August, so we're quite happy that we are able to carry out those testing in August. With our education, we are able to leverage more on the available education online platform, especially specifically the anti-doping e-learning platform that was created by WADA. So we were able to leverage that with our national anti-doping organizations, and also to use that with our doping control officers re-accreditation program. With some of our countries, such as Fiji, we are able to conduct face-to-face sessions. So by doing that, we have to abide by the local authorities' guidelines and also the safety precaution in regards to having people in the same space. So we have to look at the number of people in the space and also the amount of space that's being provided. And the screening that we need to carry out in order to, before we carry out these sessions. So these are the guidelines that we have to carry out. With our NATO compliance support and also with our government contact, I guess with everybody not being able to travel as much as before COVID, we are able to actually achieve a lot of our outputs during the COVID time with our NATO compliance. NATOs are able to submit and have their receive approval for their 2021 anti-doping rules and regulations. So we're able to do that for 16 plus 1 other countries that will be a member country of ORADO very soon, to make it 17 member countries in total. And we're also able to work closely with our member countries in regards to their co-compliance questionnaire. So with our governments, we also work closely with Drug Free Sports New Zealand and also the Australian government and Drug Free and New Zealand government to help provide support to governments of our member countries to make sure that they abide and also fulfill their compliance with the UNESCO Convention Against Doping in Sport. So those are some of the things that we have done very successfully with our member countries during this COVID times. Communication, so I just like to highlight communications has improved, and we are able to do a lot of administrative work because we're now grounded instead of traveling. So that's been a big positive for us here in Oceania. And one other thing before I sign off is like we want to extend on behalf of my chairman and all the members of ORADO, we like to extend our gratitude to the Korean Anti-Doping Agency for this opportunity for us to present our update and also to be part of this very important seminar. And congratulations again to KADA for organizing such a great platform for us to come together at this time. Thank you very much, and Binakavakalevu and Faftai Lava. My name is Natanya Potoi, calling in from Apia, Samoa. Faftai.
Thank you so much for your kind words, and also congratulations to you for your success even in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, this actually wraps up the group discussion part of today's seminar. So, Mr. Jaisoo Jin, would you like to share a few words before you leave this podium, please?
미스터 카즈와 라도를 대표해서 토론에 임해주신 모든 분들께 감사드립니다. 앞으로도 카다는 이렇게 아시아, 오세아니아뿐만 아니라 전 세계 도핑 방지 커뮤니티에서 협력하고 지식을 공유할 수 있도록 노력해 나가겠습니다. 남은 세션도 정보와 조사 활동 등 귀하신 분들 모두 모시고 토론이 계속 진행될 예정이니 끝까지 자리를 함께 해주시면 감사하겠습니다.
Thank you, Secretary General. And also, my appreciation goes to all other panelists who shared their great presentation for us all. And let us now begin the session 1, which includes a presentation by Mr. Gunter Younger, Director of Intelligence and Investigations at the World Anti-Doping Agency, or WADA. And his presentation will cover the importance of whistleblowers and how to manage WADA's Speak Up. So meanwhile, if you come up with any questions, please leave them on the open chat window during the presentation. Let us now call on Mr. Younger.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
So best regards from Montreal. It's 12 o'clock in the evening. It has snowed the whole evening, so we are ready in winter mode. I will give you a short presentation about whistleblower and how the importance. So in this respect, I would like to share my screen with you. I hope it works. Let's see whether it works, whether you can see that. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So thank you again for this very nice invitation to speak in front of KADA. It's always a pleasure for me to be with you. I apologize, I can't stay until the group discussion as I have some important obligations tomorrow morning, so I need at least some couple of hours of sleep. But I try to answer all your questions or all your proposed questions as much as possible. If not, please reach out to me anytime and I'm happy to answer that. 50 minutes, what can I offer to you in 50 minutes? I try to be as short as possible, but when you have an investigation or intelligence department, what you need to discuss and what you need to establish as policies and procedures, you need your resources, which are in our case, investigators, analysts, and source handlers, and I will come back to them later. And of course, cooperation and alliances is very important. So in this respect, what I'm going to show you is what is important in policies with regards of investigation and whistleblowers. What kind of resources do you need for this kind of work, and why is it so important to work together? Before I get into the details, I want to show you the department that we are now have created. And in 2016, when we started, we had more or less 2 people. And now when you look at the screen, you see 14 people with different areas, different units. So the first unit are all the investigators and analysts that are running our own investigations when we decide as the I&I department to run a case. The second one, and I think this is unique and this is why it's so important for whistleblower, is we have one exclusive unit for managing whistleblowers. We have experienced colleagues, former law enforcement who are experts in source handling. And I'll tell you later why it's so important to have our own unit for that. And we have the latest development that we as well now have a compliance investigation section which has started more or less today. Let me give you a very short go through our procedure in an investigation, because this describes the steps and what is important for you guys, what you should consider when you run an investigation. So there are 5 stages, as you can see, and I will not go through all of them, but just highlight some of them. So every stage, in stage 1, it starts with collecting information. You receive information through emails, perhaps you have a hotline. For instance, our Speak Up, which is our hotline, we receive around 80% of all allegations we receive through our Speak Up. Very important, the first step is to register everything that's coming in, even the reports that you perhaps not consider as important, but it might become later important for your case. So therefore, all cases, all the reports are registered in our own case management system. Then what I ask first is a pre-analysis. So in this respect, the analyst or the CIM has to go through the allegation and the source. So the assessment is the informant itself, whether valid, reliability and accuracy, meaning where does the informant get the information, could he have access, etc., etc. But as well the information itself, is it probable that the information is valid or not? At the end of the first stage, there's a recommendation, meaning first whether we should continue with this case, whether we should perhaps share it with an anti-doping organization, or whether we should run it by ourselves. All this part for stage 1 is the CIU unit, is the unit who manages the whistleblowers. So therefore, no investigator, no analyst so far has seen the case. If we decide to take on the case, then we go to stage 2. So the case will be handed over to the analyst, and then he starts again going through the data, trying to enrich the data that we have, perhaps collate, integrate, interpret, and put a hypothesis, meaning this is a really strong allegation, it can be corroborated, and therefore the investigator should now take over. He looks again over the information and then comes up with a strategy. And this is very important because the strategy means interviewing the persons. And as soon as you go in the open phase, and we call it the open phase because this is the first time when we reach out to our clients, then it is very important that you have something in place where you can define or protect your investigation. What is as well important is that sometimes at this stage you already reach out to law enforcement, which you should always consider because they have more power. And in the time that we are running our cases in the last 4 years, we have reached out to 11 different law enforcement, including Interpol and Europol. This part is the part that the IU, so the investigation unit or the compliance investigation unit, runs. So therefore it gives you an overview, so every case goes through the different steps. In the new STI, we ask as well that you investigate circumstances around an adverse analytical finding, to gain further intelligence. What we see sometimes is that, especially in cases that the interviews are very limited or very limited to the anti-doping rule violation, but sometimes you might be surprised how much you could get from a person who doped and the environment that the person lives. How do you prioritize? We have our case decision matrix, where you see on the left side the information itself with different levels from an assumption to irrefutable evidence, or the source, like is it a sport entourage, or is it a coach, or goes into crime and corruption. The green area, we usually send it to our partners. The orange area, we consider if we have enough resources to do it ourselves. And if it gets red, then we have to investigate our own department. Some facts from the CIU. Since in 2019, we just received 191 reports that led to 165 CTFs, this case transmission form. I'll show you in a second what it is. That means 165 cases should be investigated, and most of them we shared with our partners. Interestingly, 26% of these cases are related to compliance. This is why we decided to have a compliance investigation unit now. Now more than 800 speak up. Now we are almost 900 since March 2017, which is an unbelievable number. And as I said, 83% coming through speak up. What is speak up? And I would like to show you a little video which just explains how easy it is to send a message to us for a hotline. So when you go on our website, you see on the right side, report doping, you click on it, then you come to our Speak Up website with some explanation. Then you can download an app from the App Store, or you can do it through the web. Let's assume you want to download the app. So you click on it, you download the app, and as soon as you can open it, you can more or less start sending a message. You see, submit a report, you click on it, and then you get some information, and then you can more or less start writing something. As you can see, you can upload documents, cameras, audio, whatever you want to share with us. And what we encourage is to provide a name, but you can do it as anonymous, or at least a name that we can write back. And very important, it offers you a secure mailbox. That means even if someone gets hold of your phone, cannot read the message. So in this respect, it's good because then we can communicate with you without being able to identify who you are. This is very important as a first step. Then you go into this is our dashboard from Speak Up. You click on it, and then you get the same information. You click on the whistleblower dialog box, and then from there you can more or less communicate with us whatever you want to share. I was at the beginning, I was a bit skeptical with an app, but more than 25% of all messages coming in are sent by app, which is quite impressive. So in this respect, this is the first contact. This is very important contact that we immediately get a message or send a message to our informants that we acknowledge their information, and then we can respond and we can communicate with our whistleblowers. This is a case transmission form, as I said. It's when we send a case, for instance, to CADA, then we would use this form, and very important in this form is that we inform you that you are obliged to, according to the code, to investigate. We give you our findings, comments, and we provide as well what we expect from you. What is the whistleblower itself? I think it's very important. that we discuss why it's so difficult for a whistleblower to come forward, what is expected from him. So first we distinguish between informant and a whistleblower. So informant is someone who just sends once an information and then never comes back, while the whistleblower is a long-term relationship. Usually we work over weeks, sometimes years with someone, and therefore we distinguish with that. The most important thing for our clients and for a whistleblower is security. You need to take time to find out what is the situation of the person and give them the feeling that you are serious with the security of the person, and you take every step possible from your side to protect your informant. Rights as well, very important for us is always that we tell our whistleblowers, you are under control of the information. So we cannot share anything without your consent. And we will discuss everything. And this is why we have our confidential information manager, because an investigator has the objective to run an investigation, to run the case. Confidential information manager has the objective to protect the source and be the bridge to the investigator. None of my investigator or analysts know the identity of our whistleblowers. It's only the CIU unit or the director of the I&I department. Responsibilities as well, very important. They are very active, so they want to do their own step. It's very important to tell them that, that they should not do anything without informing the manager, because sometimes we have a strategy in place and it would harm it. Protection, and I always reiterate, I was the head of organized crime, and we had some witness protection measures, and I can assure you, because this is always then, especially when someone is in the media, WADA should put someone in witness protection. Nobody in the world wants to be in a witness protection. Nobody in the world wants to lose the contact to the family, to friends, to work, to live in an environment of fear, etc. The best protection for a whistleblower is confidentiality, is to that after the investigation that no one knows who provided the information. And in the last 4 years, and we are very proud that none of our whistleblowers ever was detected yet. What is important as well is rewards, that you have, that you can provide some rewards. I was surprised because I thought that finance is a big driver for informant. None of the informants we worked so far has voluntarily asked, I will provide you this if you pay that. Everyone that we worked with so far said, I want to do it for the sake of sport, which is quite impressive for me. There are 3 areas. I don't know why the yellow signs there. I don't know how this came on the screen, so I apologize for that. So to become a whistleblower manager, you need to have 3 components. You need trustworthy. That means you need to have appearance and arguments that the person who wants to work with you consider you as trustworthy. Confidential. You never cross this line. If you have promised confidentiality, you should stick to that. If you lose it once, you lose your trustworthy, and it takes weeks, months to build up trust, but it can be in a blink of an eye, it can be lost. And the last thing, whistleblowers and informants wait and ask you to do something. You need to be reliable, whatever you say. Therefore, it's very important to have the resources available to be in contact. And I can tell you at the beginning, I was the investigator and the whistleblower manager. It's very time consuming. It takes a lot of time to manage and to deal with whistleblowers. In this respect as well, in the new ISTI, we ask everyone to implement policies and facilitate and encourage whistleblowers to come forward. At the end of my presentation, I give you just some examples where we worked with. We were part of the project I just don't know why my screen is now. Now it's back. Operation Diribus. We worked with Europol and with some law enforcement, and it was one of the biggest crackdown on PED trafficking. We worked with police here in Austria and in Germany for Adalas, if you heard that, about blood doping, and the doctor who provided more than 20 athletes with blood. And we worked with the police in Austria and Norway on the IBU investigation for the president and the former Secretary General. Why I'm saying that? Because all of them were law enforcement involvement, and one of the questions is always reach out, go to your current law enforcement and have a discussion with them. What are the conditions where you could work together, whether you can share, or is it just one way? There's always a way. We always seek for the law enforcement, and we always try to establish good relationships with them, as they have the power and they can investigate much better than we can do. But we also investigated in anti-doping organization, which is now more with the compliance and analysis job for Puerto, as you know, was quite politically. And at the end, we as well supported the IOC and for Pyeongchang 2018, and you might remember that 111 athletes were suspended and 87 came from investigations from our department. What do I need for investigation? That is at the end. Policy and procedures, you need to have in place what I said with the 5 steps and procedures in place in order to make sure that every step is good. You need the right persons, with investigators, perhaps with law enforcement analysts, scientific background or law enforcement background, and source handler. And working together, alliances, especially when you're a small NARO, that you have other NAROs to come together and to talk to. And investigation is always as well a bit luck and patience in this respect. So don't forget, even with a small investigation team, you can achieve big successes for clean sport. Even a small victory for you might be a big victory for a clean athlete. And we need to work together and to make a difference for clean sport and invest in more intelligence gathering investigation and try to be in many networks. And in this respect, I want to congratulate Mrs. Sarah Lee from CADA, who was accepted to be a new member of the Anti-Doping Intelligence Investigations Network. Congratulations, and I'm happy that CADA is as well on board on our endeavor to make the sport clean. Thank you very much. That's all from my side.
Thank you so much for your presentation. And thank you for sharing the policies and platforms and management of whistleblowers. Related to the importance of whistleblowers, KADA also has a case to report to you. So last year in Korea, a former professional baseball player who also ran a baseball class for the youth illegally sold the prohibited substances to young athletes. And KADA and the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety collaborated in handling the case. So let us watch this video that KADA has prepared.
자꾸 이런 아이들한테 특히나 애착이 있는 아이한테 특정 선수한테만 들어가지 여러 명한테 그렇게 하지 않습니다.
네, 한국 도핑방지위원회입니다. 네, 도핑 제거할 게 있으시다고요? 네, 잠시만요.
어제 저희 위원회로 전화가 한 통이 왔는데요. 그 제보자분이 그 혐의자분이 약물을 조제하고 그 선수들한테 판매했다는 증거 자료를 가지고 있다 하면서 저희 위원회로 전화 한 통이 왔습니다.
이거 뭐죠? 이 뭐 하는 약이죠?
오래돼가지고 잘 모르겠습니다.
클레부테롤.
사회인 야구 하시는 분한테 이거 주사하신 거예요?
아니요, 하진 않았죠 제가.
이름 왜 적혀 있어요?
그냥 이름 뭐 적을 수 있는 거 아닙니까?
요거는 그냥 사회인 야구단 분이 맞으시는 겁니까? 이름 적은 거예요?
야구 뭐 그런 거 상관없이.
마찬가지입니까?
네.
사회인 야구단에 있던 분이 이름 와서 적었다는 거죠?
이름 적은 거는 저도 확실하게 모르겠네요.
미국에 있는 교수님이 보내주는 약이다. 야구를 잘하기 위해서는 뭐 피지컬이 좋아야 된다라는 식으로 학부모와 학생에게 권유했다는 진술을 확보하였습니다. 그리고 강습비 명목으로 무허가 스테로이드 제제와 각종 호르몬을 직접 학생들에게 주사 투여하였고 1회당 300만 원을 받고 약 1년간 1억 6천만 원 상당의 이익을 챙긴 것으로 확인하였습니다.
사건을 직접 담당해 주셨던 식약처의 조지훈 수사관님을 모시고 잠깐 인터뷰를 해보도록 하겠습니다. 안녕하세요.
안녕하십니까. 조지훈 수사관입니다.
자, 처음 카다와 같이 이 불법 스테로이드 판매 사건을 시작하게 된 계기는 어떻게 되나요?
처음에 카다에서 그 제보를 받았고요. 그 받은 제보로 저희 식약청에 카다에서 신고를 해주셔서 저희가 수사를 시작하게 되었습니다.
직접 그 불법 판매자가 운영하는 야구 교실을 압수수색하신 걸로 알고 있는데 현장에 가보니 어떠했나요, 분위기가?
저희가 그 받은 제보 사항으로 이제 압수수색 영장을 발부받아서 현장에 들어갔는데요. 저희도 깜짝 놀랐습니다. 그 제보 내용하고 너무 일치하는 것들이 그 야구 교실에 있었습니다. 냉장고하고 사무실 선반에 스테로이드 관련된 의약품들이 나왔고요. 주사기, 그리고 유소년 선수들이 복용해야 되는 스케줄표 같은 것들이 현장에 있었습니다. 그래서 그거를 영장에 의해서 저희가 수집을 했고요. 그리고 그 야구 교실을 운영하던 분은 자기가 복용하려고 했다. 이 약들은 뭐 선수들을 맞추려고 했던 건 아니다라고 부인하고 있는 상황이었습니다. 현장은 그랬습니다.
그럼 처음에는 그 불법 판매자분이 극구 부인을 한 건데 판매한 적 없다. 근데 결국에 어떻게 그 선수들한테 직접 이 판매가 되었다는 것을 입증하게 되셨나요?
이게 입증하는 데 있어서 저희가 이번에 굉장히 어려웠습니다. 이 학부모들은 자기 자식들이 이 사건과 관련돼 있기 때문에 학부모들은 어떻게든 자기 자식들을 보호하기 위해서 현금 거래라든지 의약품을 구매했다는 사실을 이렇게 저희 수사기관에다가 얘기하기가 힘들었겠죠. 그래서 저희한테는 굉장히 이제 협조가 안 됐었는데 저희가 압수수색을 통해서 그 확보된 자료를 근거로 그 카다에다가 스테로이드 구매가 추정되는 선수들 명단을 제공을 했습니다. 그래서 발빠르게 카다에서 그 선수들 대상으로 도핑 검사를 했고요. 그 도핑 검사 결과 양성 결과가 나와서 저희가 그 근거로 해서 이 불법 의약품 판매했던 사람을 검거할 수 있었죠.
아주 카다와 식약처의 그 조사 협조가 잘 이루어진 게 이런 좋은 결과가 나온 것 같습니다. 그러면 이렇게 수사 결과 이제 그 불법 판매자분 그리고 또 선수들은 어떻게 되었나요?
저희가 수사한 결과 우선은 판매했던 사람은 이제 실형을 받았는데요. 징역 10개월의 실형을 받았고요. 그리고 스테로이드를 구매했던 그 유소년 선수들은 그 3년 6개월에서 4년 정도의 자격정지를 받은 걸로 알고 있습니다.
상당히 긴 자격정지 기간인 것 같습니다. 네, 그럼 마지막으로 한 가지만 더 질문을 드리고 싶은데요. 카다와 이렇게 공조한 이 사건에 대해서 총평을 해주실까요?
카다랑 식약처에서 이번에 공조 수사를 한 거는 굉장히 모범적인 우수 사례라고 볼 수 있습니다. 그래서 저희가 식약처에서는 스테로이드 관련된 정보가 있다면 카다에는 선수와 관련된 정보가 있기 때문에 이 두 정보를 같이 공유한다면 다른 종목에서도 큰 시너지를 낼 수 있을 것 같습니다. 그래서 총평을 하자면 이번 사례를 비추어서 다른 종목에서도 저희가 이런 사건이 있다면 빨리 수사를 진행해서 잘 할 수 있을 것 같습니다. 이상입니다.
네, 오늘 이렇게 바쁘신 시간에 인터뷰에 응해주셔서 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
It was an interesting but also serious video clip about the case of the collaboration between the government and the anti-doping agency in Korea. Now we are already halfway through today's seminar. The next presentation will be delivered in a recorded video with subtitles at the bottom. So Mr. Gary Vanderbilt, the Senior Sports Operations Officer, and Ms. Catherine Jones, Senior Intelligence Analyst at Sports Integrity Australia, will be presenting about collaboration for effective intelligence-led anti-doping tests and target athlete monitoring. So shall we take a look?
안녕하세요. My name is Gary Vanderberg. I'm the Senior Sports Operations Officer at Sport Integrity Australia, and I work within our anti-doping testing team. Catherine Jones was originally advertised to present today, but I'm going to step in on this occasion. And I'd just like to begin by thanking KADA for the opportunity to present today at your conference. Certainly Sport Integrity Australia is honoured to share our knowledge and experience of the intelligence-led doping control processes that we operate and share those experiences with our international partners in the anti-doping community. Today's topic is the collaboration for effective intelligence-led anti-doping testing and targeted athlete monitoring. And the purpose of this presentation is to demonstrate the practices of intelligence-led doping control and how business areas within Sport Integrity Australia are working together for effective target testing of athletes. So today I'll provide a brief overview of who Sport Integrity Australia is, how we utilise intelligent-led doping control, covering sort of the objectives of the process, how our information gathering and assessment is made, the outcomes and recommendations of those assessments, and then how that feeds into our anti-doping response committee and the targeted athlete monitoring register that we have. And then at the end I'll touch on a case study. So Sport Integrity Australia was established on the 1st of July this year. It's a new organisation that combines the existing functions of the Australian Sports Anti-Doping Authority, the National Integrity of Sport Unit, and the integrity and member protection functions of Sport Australia. It's the first organisation or agency of its kind in the world, and we draw together existing national level sport integrity capabilities, knowledge and expertise into a single agency in order to coordinate the sport integrity threat response. So it also allows a single point of contact for sports athletes and other stakeholders in sport for all matters relating to sport integrity. So this means that Sport Integrity Australia may receive and assess information relating to the manipulation of sports competition, so that's the match fixing, the use of prohibited substances and methods in sports, so the anti-doping aspects. We also cover off abuse of children and other persons in a sporting environment, and the failure to protect members in sporting organisations and other persons in the sporting environment from bullying, intimidation, discrimination and harassment. So, and as outlined by WADA in their ISTI, there are numerous factors to be considered when developing test distribution plans, and particularly those for target testing athletes. One of those aspects that we'll touch on today is intelligence. and it's one of those factors that we use here at Sport Integrity Australia for identifying reasons and target testing athletes. And the process that we use from an intelligence perspective, we have the information gathering process that feeds into assessment and analysis of the information that we've received and other external information that we can gather. This leads into our intelligence or science teams coming up with outcomes or recommendations, and that then feeds into the anti-doping response committee, which leads that collates a targeted athlete monitoring list and register. So at Sport Integrity Australia, we get information from multiple sources. These include members of the public, whether they're involved in some capacity in sport, and the avenue that these stakeholders have in contributing or providing a tip-off to Sport Integrity Australia is through our hotline. We have a link on our website, or there's an email address that they can email that information through. We also have our Sport Integrity Australia staff, so that be our doping control or chaperone staff that are out in the field collecting samples. They may gather information that they can provide back to their intelligence team that they've picked up through conversations or behaviours through a doping control process. We also have our science team and the analysis reports that they get from samples that have been collected previously, and that can inform target testing. And then we also get information that we share with and share from national anti-doping organisations, WADA, other national sporting organisations and international federations. And we also receive information from law enforcement and regulatory agencies. And one of those examples is the Australian Border Force, who shares with Sport Integrity Australia information relating to prohibited substances that are seized at the border. So the intelligence team is provided with information of all the seizures that they can then match against members of the sporting community and identify athletes that may be involved in this process, and they can then examine whether that then leads to target testing or potentially initiate an investigation into a non-analytical ADRV. So intelligence team examines and assesses information received by Sport Integrity Australia via a triage prioritisation process. This means that matters are categorised as and responded to depending on the critical, urgent or routine nature of the information. The intelligence team conducts checks about the information reported pertaining to the athlete, the sport and the prohibited substance named. The checks undertaken with the internal databases that we have on site, open source information and requests for information from external agencies where required. And the intelligence team has established a standard operating procedure which outlines how reported matters will be dealt with, and this ensures there's a consistency in the way that team members undertake the assessments and the reporting of those specific matters. In addition to our intelligence team, we also use science as a source of intelligence. And one aspect of the science team that is crucial in our test planning and targeting of athletes is our science team and their work with the Athlete Passport Management Unit, the APMU, and they're responsible for managing and monitoring athletes' biological passports. The ABP is fundamental in monitoring selected biological variables over time to indirectly reveal the effects of doping, and the indirect detection of an athlete that is likely using a prohibited substance is based on their profile over time and what is normal for that individual versus what is abnormal. And you'll see on the left of the screen, the graph there is an example of a normal ABP profile, and you can see the lines there are very consistent. But on the right-hand side, there's an example of an abnormal blood passport where there is significant fluctuations between the sample collections, which certainly raises some concerns from our perspective. So the APMU would review biological data, which is subsequently translated into specific actions. And so our science team use that to make recommendations on what we're to be testing for, whether that's for EPO or testosterone, as an example, or who we're looking to test, and specifically when we're looking to test. So is an immediate action required when we need to go out and collect a sample as soon as possible, or do we develop a targeted test plan over a period of time in the lead up to a major competition where we're testing at regular intervals to see the fluctuations and changes in their profile as they prepare for that major competition. So once our information is received and assessed by the intelligence and or science team, and there's indications of suspicion of an athlete doping or attempting to avoid testing, the matter is referred to our Anti-Doping Response Committee for further consideration. And our Anti-Doping Response Committee was established about 12 months ago. The aim of the committee is to provide a greater level of engagement across the agency to ensure that we have a consistent and targeted approach to the target testing of athletes who have been included or recommended for inclusion on our Targeted Athlete Monitoring Register or TAM register. We draw on members internally from a number of different departments of Sport Integrity Australia, so that includes our anti-doping testing team, our intelligence staff, science, our investigations team that look after investigations once they've proceeded to a potential ADRV, and then also our legal team. So our TAM is a register that we keep of athletes with a raised level of suspicion of doping. And this register tracks and records actions that have been taken and recommendations that have been made around athletes with a raised level of suspicion. And we've developed a prioritisation model to identify the level and priority of testing for athletes. And to assess an athlete, we've used this matrix that you can see on the right-hand side. So the level of suspicion, whether it's highly likely, or possible, is provided as a recommendation from our intelligence or science teams. And then the considerations, which across the top is weighted against factors such as age, competition level, motivations, and the sport risk of doping that is provided by our anti-doping testing team. And they use a table of scores. We get a score out of 18 that determines what level of whether low, medium or high that athlete is ranked at. Once all these considerations are in, we use the matrix to identify whether they come out at an equivalent rating of TAM high, TAM medium or test opportunistically. And we do have situations where, based off the recommendations and the information we have, the committee might need to moderate the level that they're at, either higher or lower, depending on the level of information that we have about that specific athlete. So what is our TAM and TO list? So a TAM high athlete is an athlete with a high level of suspicion of doping. It requires an immediate action, and there's generally multiple tests within a specific time frame that are planned on that specific athlete. A TAM medium, athletes with a suspicion of doping or and further testing is required. It's generally incorporated into a test plan with our science team, and often there's follow-up tests as part of that process required. And our test opportunistic list is athletes that require a follow-up sample collection, but it's of a less urgent nature. So we're looking to conduct a test on that athlete at the next opportunity. So we put athletes on this list so that they don't fall off the radar. And when an opportunity arises, whether it's in or out of competition, then we'll look to add them to a testing mission to collect a sample. Now, our case study, I can't provide a significant amount of specific details about this case because it is an ongoing investigation, but it does provide an overview of how we've gone through this process internally, and it's resulted in an ADRV. So in this example, information was received by Sport Integrity Australia from an external agency, and it was assessed by our intelligence team, and they had some indications that the athlete was likely in possession of a prohibited substance and potentially using that substance. In assessing the athlete's results, they'd shown marked improvements, potentially after that use of the prohibited substance, and they therefore came up with a recommendation for testing of that athlete. So the recommendation was provided to the Anti-Doping Response Committee. The assessments were made through the matrix, and the athlete was identified as a TAM medium. We conducted some test plans and identified a window to test the athlete, which was delayed a little bit due to the current issues with COVID. But upon his return to sport, the athlete was tested following his return to competition, and this resulted with an adverse analytical finding detecting a prohibited substance in the S1, S2 class. And some of the prohibited substances that were detected in the process were consistent with those indicated by the intelligence assessment that we received. Just finally, I'd like to again thank KADA for the opportunity. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues Catherine Jones and Edwin Castillo, who provided significant input to this presentation, and I look forward to chatting to you all soon. Thank you.
That was a lot of information in the presentation, and I believe that it must be very helpful to all participants. So before we move on to the final session, KADA would like to introduce its departments that are going through transformation under the new corporate identity. Also, KADA has hired new hires that recently joined KADA, and KADA would like to introduce them through this video. So let's take a look.
부장님, 우리 다음번 국제는 어디로 할까요?
다름 씨 뭐 좋은 의견 있어요?
좋은 아이디어가 있습니다.
도쿄?
그러면 오늘 이따가 다 같이 짜장면 괜찮으시죠? 전 짜장면 좋습니다. 알겠습니다.
그러면 돈은 실상부인님으로 신대님께서?
아, 그거 좋네.
좋다.
아, 좋다. 그거 좋은 것 같아요. 좋아. 힘들어요. 편해. 지금
뭐 하시는 거예요? 오.
이상 통과! 원샷, 원킬!
어떤 캐릭터로 만드는 게 좋을까요?
이런 너무 다식적인 거보다는 약간
그래도 크기는 이 정도가 되어야 되지 않아요?
근데 너무 커서 이거는 좀 가볍게 하는 게 좋을 것 같습니다.
네.
이런 거 어떨까요?
네, 이걸로 하겠습니다. 손 한번 봐봐요. 이 사람 그 사람 아니에요?
똑같은 사람이네. 응? 대박 사건. 잡았다. 연어.
이거 먹은 적 있는데
누가 그래요?
제보가 들었어요.
안 먹었어요.
김재동 씨, 일단 여기다 해놓은 건데. 괜찮으세요?
It was indeed a very interesting and actually funny video that helps us get a taste of the open and enthusiastic organizational culture of KADA. So thank you for that. Now let us now move on to our final session. So the final presentation will be given by the United Kingdom. So Mr. Mario Theophanous, Head of Intelligence and Investigations and UK Anti-Doping, or UKAD, will be giving the presentation. The presentation has abundant amount of information, and thus, please expect the video to be a little bit longer than the previous presentations. But the contents are very interesting, so please stay tuned until the very end. Shall we watch the video then?
Hi everyone, my name's Mario Theophanous. I'm the Head of Intelligence and Investigations here at UK Anti-Doping. First of all, I'd like to thank KADA in inviting me to give a presentation, and what I'd like to say is that UK Anti-Doping has had intelligence and investigations capability since 2010, so we've had 10 years to develop this. What I would say as a takeaway for you guys is to take out this what you need. And I understand that other NADOs or RADOs have differing capabilities and staff. So what fits best for you, please take away from this presentation. I just want to go through what I'm going to be presenting today, which would be our UKAD team structure, the national intelligence model, which is the model that we follow for intelligence, where we obtain our information, the intelligence process in a little bit more detail, sharing intelligence with our partner agencies, a little bit about legislation, and also the difficulties that face us as a organisation. And then, if I've got time, I'll finish up with some case studies. Okay, so a little bit about our team structure. I manage this team. I have a senior investigator and an investigator, and currently I've got a vacancy for investigators. So you can see that we've got 3 investigators here at UKAD. The investigator's job is to be the proactive arm of the intelligence process, and their primary concern is to develop and lead on investigation policies and practice to ensure UKAD promotes the highest standards in delivering drug-free sport. They also are deployed to go out and find intelligence, so be proactive. I have 2 coordinators, a senior coordinator and an intelligence coordinator. Their roles are to act as the main point of contact between the intelligence unit and our partner agencies and ensure that intelligence is disseminated in accordance with our data sharing protocols. We have 1 analyst who provides us with an intelligence analysis capability, in particular to identify associations and anti-doping activity that undermine the integrity of sport. Also identify information or evidential gaps and to present analytical work through written reports and charts. And we have 2 researchers. These researchers provide enhancement of information and intelligence to support the development of intelligence products, including research profiles. And they do this by quite a myriad of ways, utilising tools to gather in the intelligence, and whether that be open source or whether that be tools that identify registered keepers of phones or vehicles. And it's just a point here that out of the 9 staff, including myself, 6 of my staff are former law enforcement officers. Moving on to the national intelligence model, which is the model that we use to deal with the intelligence and the dissemination of intelligence. And it's again worthy of note that this model is used by law enforcement, so we mirror that model and actually make it fit to the circumstances of the needs of the organisation. So, in relation to the first topic, the strategic assessment, this gives an overview of the current and long-term issues affecting or likely to affect a national or regional anti-doping organisation. It should be used to draw inferences and make recommendations for organisational anti-doping priorities to prevent, for prevention and intelligence and enforcement action, and also to inform future policy strategy. The strategic assessment is an integral part of the business planning process for the team and is created to drive the business of the strategic group, which I'll come on to a little bit later, assist strategic business planning and enable resources to be allocated. It's also there to assist the development of the control strategy, which is the doing part of the organisation. And it also defines the intelligence requirement. Moving on to the tactical assessment. The tactical assessment is used to identify the short-term issues for consideration by the intelligence briefing group. And I'll speak about the intelligence briefing group a little bit later on in this presentation. The information collected is analysed to support the assessment, must be ongoing and include problem profiles, subject profiles, trends and developments. A tactical assessment is created to define problems and identify subjects, so athletes, support personnel that are doping. It also recommends tactical options, how we deal with the problem, and also reviewing intelligence requirements, trying to find what the intelligence gaps are. The tactical assessment reviews recent performance and actions set at previous meetings. And it also identifies emerging patterns and trends in doping. The next topic is the problem profile. These profiles are usually commissioned by myself and can be commissioned by the Intel Briefing Group as well. And its purpose is to obtain a greater understanding of established and emerging trends, priority locations, or other identified high-risk issues, and also allocate specific owners to them. It's important that people take responsibility. A problem profile is created to provide detail on anti-doping trends or hotspots that require greater assistance in subject identification and selection. It assists in prioritising what's important for the organisation to pursue. It also identifies intelligence gaps. It highlights prevention, intelligence and enforcement opportunities, and provides justification as well for the actions that we take. Subject profiles. Each profile is updated until the objectives have been realised. A subject profile is used to assist in prioritisation, again, identify intelligence gaps, highlight prevention, intelligence and enforcement opportunities, and provide justification for actions. And the last one, sport profile, is really what it says. We look at in excess of 45 sports that come under our jurisdiction. Of course, we don't prioritise all of those sports in a top tier. So we have a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 process. And we're not going to know everything about every sport. So when a particular problem occurs, we may use a sport profile to understand, one, what's happening in the sport itself, two, what the sport is all about, and three, what the vulnerabilities are. So where do we get our sources of information from? We have quite a few sources of information, as you can see there. We have international federations, national governing bodies, law enforcement, whereabouts, and the list goes on. The two in particular there, just to mention about, are Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers are an independent charity that gives people the power to speak up anonymously and stop crime. And we're talking about general crime here. Informants report wrongdoing to Crime Stoppers, who then record and send reports to law enforcement. Now, because we're signed up with Crime Stoppers, we will receive all intelligence reports that relate to steroids. So anything that's sent to law enforcement, we will get dual reporting on as well. And what that means is benefits for that, because we know where those reports are being sent, what force. And in our country, we have 43 forces, police forces. And we can then contact those police forces if we want to consider doing joint working. Protect Your Sport as well. That is a bespoke service exclusively to UKAD, which is again administered by Crime Stoppers. These reports relate directly to doping in sport and are also anonymous. And we work well with this Protect Your Sport initiative, because we can also do two-way questioning. In fact, we can get the report to us and it will indicate whether the informant, who's anonymous, wants to talk to us or not. We have to do that through Crime Stoppers. We can send a series of questions. Where did they get the drugs from? Who else is taking performance enhancing drugs? Are there any ASP involved? And that will be sent to the informant by Crime Stoppers, and we get the reply back. So it's a really good tool to have. The priority with Crime Stoppers reports and seizures is to establish a link to sport. Without a link to sport, we have no jurisdiction to intervene other than to flag to police if the quantity suggests supply or there's a large quantity, so that we can disrupt the supply chain. Just give you some figures. Between 2015 and 2020, UKAD have recorded over 7,500 intelligence reports. 9% of those reports are from the Protect Your Sport initiative, and 36% of those are from Crime Stoppers, which is more general steroid reporting. 27% we receive from law enforcement through major seizures from UK Border Force. And we've had several notifications from seizures from our German Border Force colleagues. In relation to the UK Border Force reports, we get sent all the seizure notifications of seizures that come from abroad through our postal process, and they get seized by UK Border Force. We will get notified of all of that. So it's a whole wealth of information that we obtain, and we have made links to sport by doing that. So moving on. So the next slide is the intelligence process. Now, we are process driven within the Intel unit because it sets the direction of the unit. So let me just try and explain this. Information sources, as I mentioned on the previous slide, we have numerous partners that are giving us information all the time. It's developed by us by using what's known as the intelligence cycle. And again, you'll find this in the National Intelligence Model. And by the way, this model is online. You can Google it and you can download the document. I recommend you to do that. So the intelligence cycle starts off with direction, and this is the management of the entire effort from identifying the need for data to delivering an intelligence product at the end. Part of that is the collection process, where information is gathered, in raw format, and needs to be produced in a finished article, finished intelligence package. And the way we do that is evaluate the intelligence. So once the collection plan is executed and information arrives, we evaluate it for relevance and reliability. We then collate the product, which involves converting the information collected, which can be large amounts at one time, to a form or a format that is usable by the analysts. And then, of course, we have the analysis of the data or information, and that's a conversion of basic information into finished intelligence. It includes integrating, evaluating, and analysing all available data. And then on the last step, we have dissemination, which logically feeds into the first of direction. it's the distribution of the finished intelligence to the persons or groups or agencies that require that intelligence. Now that could be our testing team, so we could send over intelligence to the testing team that an athlete is doping. They will then make the decision as to whether to test that athlete in or out of competition. Or if it's something that we feel should sit with law enforcement, then we will contact the law enforcement through our GAIN network, which is a government agency for intelligence network, and they will take the information and place it in one of the police forces as best suited to deal with it. We don't always have success in doing that because of competing priorities. So moving on the process, we have the intelligence unit, which I've already explained. Everything comes into the intelligence unit, and we use the intelligence cycle, and then the information is then taken to the intelligence briefing group, which meets on a weekly basis. And this group consists of the heads of the operation teams, as well as directors from ops and legal. And also our CEO sits on this group. And the job is to review the intelligence and ensure that appropriate action or actions are being taken. This is basically looking at the information that we usually receive and is considered our normal course of business. We then move on to the operational activity. All the information, the finished article, leads into what operation activity takes place. It informs us as to which direction we want to go into. So that could be testing, could be dissemination to our to the appropriate partners that we have, who are best placed to deal with that action and place it with a specialist group within their organisation. We also have a strategic group. Again, this group consists of the directors team in its entirety at UKAD and also the CEO who chairs. They review strategic information that falls outside the priorities and is usually the issues that will affect the organisation in the mid and long term, i.e. high profile investigations, reputational issues, or societal impact of IPEDs. They will then give direction and manage the associated risks to consider whether action should be taken and advises the intelligence briefing group, the tasking group in effect, of the direction to take. Information is escalated from the intelligence briefing group to the strategic group where necessary, and then direction is given back to the intelligence briefing group to go for operational activity. How do we use intelligence? Well, and I'm sure majority of you are doing the same. We use the intelligence, but we use it in an intelligence-led way. So intelligence-led testing of athletes at team events, in or out of competition. It could be out of competition at a training venue, or it could be at their home address that we target test. We also use the intelligence for targeted education and communication, sharing with other agencies for joint action. That could be, as I said before, law enforcement, national governing bodies, or other partner agencies that we deal with. We also look at using the intelligence to build those profiles that I've mentioned. and identify trends from the data that we receive. An interesting topic is the last one, which is the disruption matrix. Excuse me. Of course, we can't deal with all intelligence that comes in. So what we tend to do is field that intelligence where it's needed and can be actioned. And over the last few years, we've developed this disruption matrix, and it gives the user a range of alternative tactical options to prevent, deter, intervene, and disrupt athletes and athlete support personnel from committing ADRVs. In addition, where an athlete or ASP is suspected of committing an ADRV, but there is insufficient evidence to proceed, or it's not in the public's interest to pursue a prosecution, this matrix may be used. Just to give you an example, if we get intelligence in, there's an athlete that is doping, he's taking EPO, but we haven't got sufficient evidence to mount an investigation or take it to prosecution, then what we could do is write to him, send him a letter or knock on his door and say to the athlete, we have information that you're doping. It may be true, it may not be true, but in any event, you need to stop it if it is, and walk away, you know, and that puts into the mind of the athlete, wow, they do know that I'm doping. I better watch myself, and it's a disruption. So we use that to good effect. The next slide talks about legislation. And it's useful to have an understanding of our framework in the UK. And I don't, I don't know whether you have similar legislation where you are, but we don't have criminal legislation in the UK to cover doping offences. But some of the substances on the prohibited list fall under the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971 and the Medicines Act, and they mirror the prohibited list. We also use legal gateways to allow sharing of information to build up anti-doping rule violations. The Data Protection Act allows us to process information, data, and also data by other relevant bodies. So, you know, we have legislation which specifically recognises anti-doping organisations, and it's written in the Act specifically around sport, and that's really useful for us. Moving on to sharing outside sport. It says what it says, really. We will share with people that we know and we have a good working relationship with, and that will normally mean that we will raise information sharing agreements with those bodies to ensure that they can receive the intelligence safely and securely, and also, more to the point, that they will do something with that intelligence. We also have an intelligence report template which outside agencies can use to report intelligence to us. We also have a template that we use to report to other agencies. We have a secure transfer protocol in place, and that can be a share file which is encrypted. Obviously, relevant legislation allows us to do that. We utilise alternative powers of those other agencies, so for example law enforcement, whereas we don't have any powers at all to enter premises or seize evidence or laptops or devices. Sometimes we can get law enforcement to do that on our behalf. More than not, law enforcement have other priorities, so we're not always successful in that. They have other higher priorities to deal with, like terrorism or people trafficking, which sits way above what we deal with in the steroids drugs side. So some of our partner agencies are here on the slide. I don't want to go through all of those, but as you can see, I mean, there's a lot more than this. This is all I wanted to fit onto the side. These are our main partners. And we work very well with these, and in particular, the National Crime Agency, the NCA, the Border Agency, HMRC, and the other MHRA, which is the Medical Health Regulatory Authority. Now, they deal with all prescription drugs, and as you know, the majority of prohibited substances are prescription only drugs in the UK. Want to move on to the legislation that we've got in the UK. I've touched upon it. As I said, the Misuse of Drugs Act class steroids as Class C, and if you think that Class A would be cocaine, heroin, Class B would be cannabis, steroids are Class C, so they're the lowest class of drugs. It is illegal to supply to others or to import, export via a courier or freight service. Sentence for doing that is up to 14 years, so it's quite, you know, a high sentence, 14 years imprisonment. But it is legal to possess drugs for personal use. So, for example, if someone comes in from Korea on a flight into the UK and they have steroids and they get checked by customs and found to have steroids on them, if they say it's for my personal use, they're allowed to walk through. They won't be arrested, and that's causes us a problem. Okay, so moving on to the difficulties that we have. And I presume that you probably have the same difficulties. Working with law enforcement has issues. They have, as I said before, they have competing priorities. They have limited resources and rightly focus on the more serious crimes. And it is really hard to try and get them to link in with us and take action on athletes or suppliers of steroids. And as I said earlier, possession of steroids is not an offence, you know, and not everyone knows what quantity would be considered enough for supply. We've had a kilo of steroids allowed through because the person said that they were personal use. And there's always a conflict of interest when we do get law enforcement to take on some of the jobs that we disseminate to them. We have to wait to take on proceedings for an anti-doping rule violation because it could hinder their criminal case. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the case studies now. And this is a good example of working with the National Crime Agency. In 2014, we had there was a seizure of 600 kilos of anabolic steroids at Heathrow by the Border Force. The Border Force pushed this out to law enforcement, and law enforcement didn't want to know about this. So we got the dual report of the seizure, and we tried to get the relevant police service to get involved to investigate, but it became clear that they didn't want to take this on. They felt that steroids wasn't a priority for them. So we continue to try and get support, And this is where it's so important to utilize your contacts within law enforcement. And in this case, a colleague of mine from the National Crime Agency, he then took the job on, and they dismantled an organised crime group, which was worth more than 65 million at the time. So persistence, I would say, is the key here. The NCA were able to provide evidence of the production and supply of over 52 tonnes of steroids that had come into the UK, and possibly destined to go elsewhere as well. And it was estimated that they were moving in excess of 4 tonnes per month entering into the UK market. So, you know, they executed a series of search warrants, and in one particular case, a laboratory on an industrial estate near Heathrow Airport, and that was in March 2015. And that led to the discovery of just packaging, which estimated, you know, if it had contained the drugs, this was before the drugs were produced. If they were married together, the steroids and the packaging, that would be over £43 million worth of steroids that were ready to be distributed. The crime group were also linked to another steroid lab, illegal steroid lab, which was found to have produced around about 10 million worth of steroids. And at trial in 2019, the court heard that the steroids were similar to those used by the London Bridge and Westminster terrorists. So we've got a terrorist link here. And they were also sold to bodybuilders, gym users, and possible professional athletes. 6 men were sentenced for between 2 and 6 years. The proceeds of crime investigations are still ongoing on this case. Another case is Operation Greyskull. Again, it was intelligence that came to us concerning a cross-border organised crime group that were concerned in supply of performance-enhancing drugs. And this was passed to us in October 2017. This was a massive, massive operation. There were limited police resources to help. We'd obviously contacted our colleagues in law enforcement, and the historical nature of the intelligence, the forces were reluctant to take it on. So we decided to scale it down and try to get some more up-to-date intelligence, and we targeted specific areas and subjects to then develop the information further. We then contacted the East Region Specialist Operations Unit, ERSU, and we had a joint meeting attended by the National Crime Agency as well. ERSU agreed to attempt to develop the existing intelligence and acquire resources from a nearby force, Cambridgeshire Police Force, to see whether they could do a joint venture. So in March 2018, another part of this operation, UK Border Force seized a large quantity of human growth hormones, specifically nortretropin, somatropin, and methinolone, addressed to an individual, obviously at his home address. In July 2018, we assisted law enforcement and attended searches, which were executed at home and business addresses. From those searches, steroids, prescription medicines, and cash was recovered, together with an iPhone desktop PC and correspondence. Police await forensics analysis of these substances and are still interrogating the digital devices. And the end game here for us is, as I said earlier on in this presentation, the link to sport. We need to be able to, as a organisation, try and make that leap to the information that's contained within those digital devices. And we've had success in the past where we've managed to link the people and addresses on the phones to athletes that are under our jurisdiction. And we've had some successful anti-doping rule violations at our national anti-doping panel hearings. So that's really it. I just wanted to give you some really insights into what we have tried to do, and I would say to anyone that's listening to this presentation, try and embed information gathering processes into all your staff, all your organisation, by encouraging the use of the information template form, so that they can submit information following visits, whether they be education sessions, tribunal hearings, media releases, conversations with NGBs, any information, we want, those people to send to us. You need to formalise information sharing with relevant agencies to widen the net of information. So information sharing agreements are really useful in trying to get that two-way information sharing going. And also develop and maintain relationships with partners to allow them to see that processes and procedures for handling information make us as an organisation a credible organisation. You need also to coordinate your teams, that visit sports to develop closer links and assist with promoting intelligence-led approach to anti-doping. Your doping control officers, they are a wealth of information and intelligence. They're often listening to people talk around anti-doping. These are the sort of things that we need to have. Proactive, regular engagement with national governing bodies, their anti-doping officers, and the use of various methods for sharing information. And also, we also have the disruption matrix that they can use as well. And the last thing that I'd like to say is please continue to explore the best ways to identify offences under the 3 ADRVs, which are the ones that we tend to concentrate, the non-analytical ones, which are supply, trafficking, and the administration of prohibited substances. You need to identify which partners can assist you with dealing with anti-doping investigations, because their specialisms, are the ones that you need to try and assist you in getting a successful prosecution. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to taking some of your questions a little bit later. Thank you.
Mr. Theophanous gave us a lot of food for thoughts. It was a very detailed presentation. Now, we have finally reached the last segment of today's seminar, which is the Q&A session. Mainly, the questions asked upon your registration and the questions you brought up during the seminar will be answered by several experts. And I believe that your questions will be fully answered to a satisfactory level because our panelists are the experts. And the Q&A session will be led by the manager, Serom Lee. from the International Cooperation Department of KADA. So throughout today's program, we covered investigation cases of different countries and challenges that the COVID-19 has brought to each region, as well as the importance of intelligence and investigation too. So because we have covered so many different sectors and so many different regions, I believe that there must have been a lot of questions. And I hope that all of your questions will be fully answered because we have experts who are working in the field. So it seems that our panelists are ready. So over to you, Sarah.
Yes, please. All right, hello everyone. I'm Seena from KADA. I'll be the moderator for this session. And first of all, I'm very honored to welcome all of you, the international audience, and also to lead this session with our prominent speakers. But I won't repeat their names because our MC already mentioned their name. But we have here on site, we have a special guest, Ms. Jung Ho Hong, a WADA and KADA athlete committee member. How are you, Jung Ho?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, thank you.
And we have also Mr. Ji-Hoon Jo, an investigator from the Ministry of Drug and Food Safety, who was in the KADA's video with me. Hello. Yes. Okay, so we all speakers are ready. I will start with first question. The first question goes like, what is the intelligence and investigation team composed of, and what are their roles? But I think Mr. Gunter and Mr. Mario already covered this in detail. So I would like to go further on this to Mario. You mentioned during your presentation, UKAD has like 8 staff in your team. But you know, most of NAROs don't have enough staff in their investigation team. So also, KADA has only 1 director and 1 investigator in our team too. So what's your advice on small NAROs? How can we run a small investigation team efficiently?
It's a very good question. And just let me say, first of all, looking at your presentation, recording your presentation, it's the worst thing in the world. Having said that, I would say all NARDOs and RADOs are different. An intelligence team is quite integral to the way that you work and how you prioritize, you know, what's important. Yeah, I get that, you know, you can't afford to have everything. But what I would say is you need an investigator because it's the non-analytical offences that are not being investigated to obtain further information. So I'd say that invest in at least 1 researcher, 1 investigator as a minimum, so that you can progress for the non-analyticals. It does reap the benefits, and I'm sure my other panel members will probably agree with that. But just do what you can. I mean, if you want to reach out to other established NARDOs, I'm sure we're here to assist, and obviously we can try and do what we can for the RADOs and other NARDOs that haven't got that capability. It's a luxury, and I get that it's a luxury, but I'd say CEOs need to look at that aspect.
Yes, thank you, Maria. I also agree with that. We need at least 1 intelligence manager and 1 investigator, I think. Right, so moving on to the next question. We have received this question a lot too. I hope Mr. Gary can answer this one. The question is there any impact on intelligence and investigation activities due to COVID-19? If yes, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been an impact, certainly from our perspective. You know, it's impacted on all elements of the business, from test planning right through to investigations. From our perspective, we have noticed a decline in the number of information, particularly around tip-offs that are coming in, and I think part of this is linked to the lack of competition and group training. So athletes who often can be the source of, or people involved in the sport can be the source of that information, and not seeing other athletes compete, train, so they don't necessarily have that direct information. But what we've been able to do from a Sport Integrity Australia perspective is redirect our focus on the science side of things. So our science team have been very active over the last sort of 6 months, reviewing profiles of athletes, particularly those that I mentioned in my presentation that are on our test opportunistically list, and going back and just seeing if the testing data that we've gathered since they were added to that list is still relevant, or whether it changes their level of suspicion. So, you know, I guess from our perspective, that's probably how things have changed a little bit.
Yes, that's right. It's same here in Korea too. I mean, KADA has some tip-offs, but even though we have some evidence, but for the social distance, we cannot interview the suspects and athlete either. So, yes, that's we are all facing. And so, moving on to the next question. I'm also very interested in this issue. I mean, KADA, as you watched the video earlier, KADA has a very positive relationship with the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety, but I think we need more collaboration with public authorities as well. So, Mr. Maria, from your previous presentation, you had mentioned UKAD has a very various collaboration with different authorities. So the question is, which public authorities can we collaborate with, and how can we build an intimate relationship with them?
Yeah, to do that, I think you've got to make inroads into some of the organisations, the Food Standards Authority, Medical Health Regulatory Authority, law enforcement as well, and you got to put yourself out there. You know, speak to your government, find out which of the doors that they can open, so that you can go and speak and present to these public authorities to show exactly what the problem is and what we're facing. What you also need to do is to show what the mutual benefits are to both those agencies and obviously to your organisation. And that could be around the possession of controlled drugs that are offences with those agencies, and also ADRVs on your part. Sit on various working groups with those public authorities. I sit on the National Tactical Drugs Working Group, which is an amalgamation of law enforcement, national crime agencies, and most of the police forces. We have 43 police forces in the UK. And that's important, to actually sit there and listen to what the current trends are. And also wine and dine some of those, authorities, have working lunches, go out for a beer with some of those authorities, because the best work is done during those networking opportunities. Attend some of the conferences that are given by government with law enforcement, with the public agencies, and network. That's really the advice I'd give.
Right, thank you. I will appreciate your response. Okay, then I would like to listen from the other side, Mr. Ji-Hoon Jo. as an investigator from law enforcement, so what makes you interested in anti-doping cases and get involved with KADA? You can, Mr. Ju, yes, please.
네, 그 저희 식약청에서는 항상 그 불법 약물 판매에 대해서는 관심을 많이 가지고 있습니다. 아마 그 도핑방지위원회하고 저희 식품위생법, 약사법 위반하고는 그 방금 말씀하신 것처럼 겹치는 부분이 있을 겁니다. 그래서 저희가 그런 측면에서는 항상 관심을 가지고 있고, 그 혹시 질문에 대해서 저는 혹시 네네. 그리고 저 이번에 아까 지금 영상에서 나왔듯이 굉장히 이 사건은 저희가 이제 약사법 위반으로 이제 점검을 많이 해볼 때면 불특정 다수한테 약을 판매하는 게 일반적이었습니다. 근데 이번 사건 같은 경우는 불특정 다수도 있었지만 그 유소년들한테 이 약이 흘러갔다는 것을 저희가 우선은 확인할 수 있었습니다. 그게 엄청나게 좀 큰 사건이라고 생각했고요. 그리고 저희가 이 수사를 하면서 좀 흥미로웠던 게 약물을 한번 구매했던 사람이 그 사람이 구매해서 끝나는 게 아니고 다시 판매자로 바뀌었다는 거죠. 그래서 저희가 지금 보고 있는 게 단순히 뭐 소지하고 있거나 구매했던 사람들은 약사법에서 지금은 뭐 제외하고 있지만 뭐 더 나아가서는 이제 구매자나 소지자도 약사법에서는 이제 뭐 처분과 관련해서 해야 되지 않을까 그런 생각도 했습니다. 그래서 저희가 이번 사건을 카다랑 같이 하면서 굉장히 중요하게 관심 있게 봤던 겁니다. 그리고 또 여담인데 당시 제 아들도 야구 교실에서 취미생활로 그 야구를 좋아하기 때문에 하고 있었거든요. 그래서 제가 더욱 그 관심을 가지고 수사에 들어갈 수 있었던 것 같습니다. 네, 이상입니다.
Thank you, Jun. I also agree with that. Doping itself is not a criminal offense in Korea, but as you know, many doping cases are related to like illegal drug trafficking. So I think NARO should emphasize this point to law enforcement to persuade them and draw their attention. All right. So carrying on, we have another frequently asked question. An investigator can feel doubtful about having sufficient evidence to interrogate a suspect. So as such, when is the best timing to interview or first contact the suspect after receiving a tip-off and conducting intelligence activities? So Mr. Mario, once again, would you like to answer this question, please? Mario, did you hear my question?
Yes, I didn't hear the question. My audio failed me then.
Okay,
sorry, could you?
Yeah, I will repeat that. So question was about when is the best timing to first contact a suspect after receiving a tip-off and conduct intelligence activities. So like, how can we so sure if we have enough evidence to contact the athletes?
Right. I think that I'll start off with a quote by Benjamin Franklin, which is by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. So the first thing that needs to be done is get all your ducks in a row, make sure that you have all your evidence, all your intelligence, and ensure that all the points that you want to prove are covered off before you even approach the suspect. So interview planning is a big part of what we do. So we would look at all the intelligence, look at all the evidence, and plan the interview accordingly before we even contact the athlete. We would, once we are ready, we would send the athlete a letter setting out the rights of the athlete, but also setting out that if the athlete admits to tell us something, then and they later on rely on that information, then we would look at drawing an inference for not telling us at that time. So we would precede that with the letter, with it's a warning really, just for them to tell us the truth and not to tamper with the investigation by misleading us with answers that they would give. We would then interview that athlete and obviously take their responses. We would go away, we would double check the information that they've given us. If we then need to prepare a further interview, then we would do so to challenge them on the story that they've given. So prepare is the response I would give.
Yes, that's right. Prepare and prepare and prepare. Yes, so let's moving on to the next question. Actually, I would like to address a question too, maybe to Catherine, regarding the Australia's presentation. So Catherine, during the presentation, Sports Integrity Australia has its own system named as JADE. So would you elaborate on this, please?
Yes, certainly. JADE is a case management system that we use to consolidate intelligence information. Many types of information is recorded in JADE. It's a central location that we can put our information in. And it means that we can do multiple searches across data to ascertain information about an athlete. For example, whether there's been multiple tip-offs or adverse analytical findings, or even whether there's a recorded anti-doping rule violation. So that system is used by our intelligence team. It's also used by sports operations, science and investigations. The system itself can also be upgraded by internal administration so that it can accommodate for any changes in the landscape. For example, if there's a new substance that is added to the WADA prohibited list, this can be obviously amended in JADE to reflect that. Just in my role as the intelligence analyst within Sport Integrity Australia, a lot of the time I'm able to do bulk data exports from JADE, which means I'm able to draw insight and also analysis from any trends in the data that is therefore inputted into JADE. So it's a very useful tool to record information, but also to use it as an analytical tool.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. So did you develop this system, I mean the Integrity Australia, Sports Integrity Australia, or you just bought the license to use them?
Correct, the license to use it across the organisation. It is something that's available and has been drawn on from law enforcement experience. So there is also on jadeworld.com is offering a free demo to organisations who are interested in using it.
All right, thank you for your detailed explanation. It sounds very smart and convenient. Okay, so let's jump on to an athlete's point of view. Jang-ho, I have a question for you. Reporting doping is made from like internal personnel, like whistleblower, due to the nature of doping. So if you are not in the group, such as fellow athlete or team coach or team doctor, it's really hard to know who is doping. So from your point of view as an athlete, what functions do you think are essential for the WADA Speak Up or NADO's reporting program to be actively used?
Yeah, thank you for asking me. And then from an athlete point of view, if I was aware of doping and I'd like to report this to an adult, I think it's important to know whether my personal information is kept strictly confidential. Also, it's not easy to report to isn't easy to report on fellow athlete. It needs courage, and also it's because I might get damage in the team if if the team knew if I was a whistleblower. So I think the most important thing is who is not whistleblower. We cannot know. So I hope to know how my report is being processed. Thank you.
Thank you. I also agree with that. I mean, confidentiality is our top priority. So since we are running out of time, we will have to wrap up this session for now, and I apologize that not to address all the questions you have left on via Zoom. But thank you very much for your participation, Catherine, and Gary, and Mario, and also Jung-ho, Ji-hoon. So, all right, now I will pass the microphone to our MC, Ms. Hae-sung-ji. So thank you once again, and have a good one. Bye.
Thank you so much for panelists and moderator Sarah for a very informative Q&A session. It was very well done. So I'd like to actually pay my tribute to our moderator Sarah and all of the panelists. Now, before we start to close today's event, I would like to ask the offline participants here in the studio to come front after we clear this stage so that we can have a group photo shot together with our offline participants as well as online participants at the very end. So stage will be cleared, and you please come to the front for the group photo together. So the last couple of hours were very enthusiastic and interesting. And I hope that KADA Anti-Doping Seminar 2020 was meaningful and enjoyable to you all. So online forum participants, please make sure to complete the survey you will see at the end of the program. Your feedback will be very important and valuable in shaping our next year's seminar. And once you submit your survey, you will be automatically entered in the lucky draw. If you win, you are going to receive the new mascot of KADA named Tonton. It's a small doll that you saw from one of the videos that KADA made. So 10 people will be randomly selected. In closing, KADA promises to play the leading role in realizing sports free of doping. And it will provide support you need in the field of anti-doping. And we are going to close today's seminar with a group photo together with our offline participants. In the studio, we are waiting for all the participants to come and find their seats so that all of us can get in the group photo. I was told that there are more than 150 participants across so many countries watched our live streaming video. So for this specific group photo, I asked our online participants to take their mask off just for like 3 to 5 seconds for the group photo together. So online participants, you are also on air. So we are going to try the very huge group photo shot. So we are going to make a gesture together. So how about we do fighting? So I'm going to say KADA, and all of you, online and offline participants, you are going to shout fighting. This is not English. This is the Korean way of cheering each other up. And the gesture is like this. I'm not sure whether our online participants can see the gesture, but I'm going to say KADA, and everyone, offline and online together, we are going to say fighting, okay? So I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, and I'm sorry. I'm going to say KADA, and we are going to shout fighting. Ready? Go. KADA, fighting. Great. And we are going to try just one more gesture. In Korea, we make a big heart with 2 hands put on your head like this. I'm not sure whether you can see, but I guess a lot of you already know. So yes, use your 2 hands and put them on your heads, and it looks like a big heart. Small heart is okay too, but so I'm going to ask all the online participants to make a very, very big heart. Make very big O, and then put your hands on your head. It becomes a very big heart. And now, if you are ready, freeze for 3 to 5 seconds. Ready? Go. Great, so that was our group photo shot. And with this, we are going to close our seminar. So I'm going to say farewell. So let us wave our hands to each other. Bye.